Hi everyone, I'm Eshaan reporting for Kids First, and today I'm super excited to chat with Danny Wu, director of American and Odyssey to 1947. During the pandemic, Wu stayed in Chengdu, China with his family and created a 22-minute short program titled My Life in China During the Pandemic, subsequently broadcast by CNN affiliate N1. American and Odyssey to 1947 is his first film to enter the film festival circuit. Super excited to chat with you today, so thank you so much, Mr. Wu, for speaking with me.
The privilege is all mine.
I'm always interested to hear why filmmakers are drawn to documentaries. Since I think all your films so far are documentaries, what drew you to the style in the first place?
Um, I think it's more of a it just accessibility. Documentaries. As you can tell, there's not much barriers to entry, right? For a feature film, narrative feature film, there's gonna be you're gonna need a lot of big budget to make that happen. But as you can see, as I've been seeing, for documentary, we've been on the circuit all year, and there were complete films shot with iPhone these days. People got that technology in their pocket now. And so I think what drew me to documentaries is just the ease of being able to make one. And I actually started making YouTube videos, and so it was a it was a kind of cool transition to go from that to documentary filmmaking, and be able to carry a lot of the lessons I've learned from making YouTube videos. And but mainly I think just as an artist, it was the easiest thing to get into, and the subjects that interested me.
Awesome. And diving more specific into that, what inspired you to create American and Odyssey to 1947?
As you stated earlier, during the pandemic, I said to myself, if I'm really going to get into this filmmaking thing, I got a lot of catching up to do. I wasn't a film major, stuff like that. I think I found a list by Spike Lee, and one of the first films I watched was Citizen Kane, you know, and that film just drew me in. Like, I was so absorbed in that film. I'm not sure, have you seen Citizen Kane before?
I have, yes.
Yeah. I know it can get dull at times, but when I first watched it, it was a mind-blowing experience that, in 1941, they were able to do things like this with the camera. And so as I watched all the other movies, the movie that I kept coming back to was Citizen Kane. And when I learned more about Citizen Kane and about the filmmaker Orson Welles, I realized that, so this guy made a film, and he was basically ran out of the country, and no one's talking about it, and no one knows about this. I wanted to make a film about that. I didn't actually want to make a film about that. I wanted to make a YouTube video about it. Like, I really just wanted to make like a 15-minute YouTube video about Orson Welles and how he was driven out of the country. And so as I started making this YouTube video, I was like, maybe I should just start interviewing some people who are knowledgeable about the situation. And as that grew, I realized that, first of all, the story is much bigger than Orson Welles and William Randolph Hearst. And two, that I wanted to make it into a documentary. And so we had a problem at that point because it was in the middle of the pandemic, and we weren't allowed to travel. I'm from Canada, and all the interviews that I had to do were in the US. And so I had to wait for the vaccine to come out. And then as soon as I got my second dose, went to the US, went on a long road trip to get everyone interviewed. And so, the process just became extremely, extremely rewarding. And, that's how we got to where we are today.
Awesome. Yeah, so tell me more about like what exactly about his story, Orson Welles' story, because I know that takes up a large part of the film.
Yeah.
It's almost half and half, right? I mean, the first half is largely the story of Orson Welles. What do you think will resonate with kids? What are the things that kind of caught your attention?
I think about Orson specifically, you know, I think it's just the fact that, as you see in the film, he was so directly or indirectly involved in so much of US politics at that point, right? With the New Deal, with World War II, with the McCarthyism, the blacklist, right? Orson was pretty much involved in everything there. And he kind of spearheaded the radio movement in the US. And so we wanted to create the timeline of Orson from Orson leaving, right? We start with him leaving, go back to the beginning, and then go back all the way to him leaving again in 1947, and then weave stories in between that of the cultural context at that time. Personally, a lot of the like historical documentaries I watch is just one timeline, and to me that like kind of gets dull. So we wanted to make sure we have a few other stories to go along with it. And for me, one of the most interesting things about Orson, again, that drew me into him is his relationship with President Franklin Roosevelt. And, you know, when I look online, there's not much written about it. So, you know, I had to study a lot about that to find out what's going on there. And I realized that, you know, if I'm going to put Franklin Roosevelt into the movie, you know, it's about all the great things he has done. We would also kind of be whitewashing, you know, some of the crimes that he's also
Sure.
committed, so
Yeah.
and so crimes he's committed. And so I realized that as an Asian American, um, Asian Canadian, but it's also my duty to, you know, talk about the Japanese internment camp, right? So that's how we get the third storyline of Howard Kakita. And the interesting with Howard Kakita is that his story is a story of him coming back to the US. So we have the story of Orson, how what drew him out of the US, and then parallel to that is Howard, brought him back to the US. So at the end, it's one person leaving and one person coming back. So that was kind of what was going on in my mind at that time, that this wouldn't just be a documentary solely about Orson Welles, but kind of like a timepiece, an artifact of the era in general.
Sure, yeah, no, and that's a very interesting thought process. Actually, now I'm reframing it kind of as one person entering, one person leaving. Very cool. So in the whole process of putting together the film, um, what was the most special moment, whether it's an interview, whether it's like coming up with archival footage, whatever?
Okay, I'll talk about one in production and one in post-production. I think one in production is when we got Simon Callow to say yes to doing our documentary.
Wow.
Simon Callow, he, you know, big time actor. Um, I was able to get a hold of his email, so it was a complete shot in the dark, the email I sent him. And he replied a few days later saying, yes, he would love to do it. That was, you know, I was on cloud nine for like a few days. In post-production, I think once we started submitting to the film festivals, and you know, we didn't have luck for the first half year, right? We get into Newport Beach Film Festival, and then, you know, I thought that was kind of it, right? You know, we get into a solid mid-tier film festival. At the end of 2022, like just right around New Year, I remember this so clearly. I was rewatching Argo for some reason. And then I look in my email, and the famous film critic Jonathan Rosenbaum, he put our film on his year-end list for
Oh,
best
wow.
films of 2022. And you know, it was just, I just remember seeing the list. It was like Banshees, Fablemans, American and Odyssey to 1947. I was just I like that that kind of changed my life, you know. And then a few days afterwards, we got an invitation to screen at the Thessaloniki Documentary Festival, and to be able to get in there, you know, in 2023, it was an incredible moment. So I think those are the moments that I really cherish.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Wu, for chatting with me today. It's been super cool to get the behind the scenes view of American Odyssey 1947. And to our viewers, American Odyssey 1947 releases in theaters on September 8th and on digital on September 12th. So definitely go and check it out. This is Eshaan from Kids First. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss my next interview or those of my teammates. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you at the movies.
To be born free is to be born in debt. To live in freedom without fighting slavery is to profiteer.